The storm over the red plains of Lurith was unlike anything Captain Elias Cade had ever seen. The sky split with streaks of violet lightning, striking the jagged cliffs and kicking up sand that shimmered with static. His survival pod, which had crash-landed 2 days earlier, was buried half in the dunes, sparking occasionally as though mocking his failed mission. Elias tightened the strap of his makeshift cloak, ripped from the parachute fabric, and kept walking. His water ration was nearly gone, and the tiny scanner in his wrist gauntlet kept flickering between broken signals. No rescue ship had arrived. The command had likely written him off. Then he heard it. Not the howl of the storm, not the crackle of lightning, but a cry. Faint, weak, distinctly not human. He stopped, crouched low, and pressed his ear to the sand. The sound came again, softer this time, but clear. He followed it, trudging toward a cluster of boulders that leaned against one another like the ribs of some ancient beast. Between them lay a figure. She was alien, no mistaking it. Her skin glowed faintly silver under the storm's light, marked with delicate bioluminescent patterns that flickered like faint constellations. Her hair was braided into long strands of pale green, tangled with dust and blood. She wore armor, though broken and scorched, and a spear lay snapped in half beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, large, golden, filled with fear. Elias raised his hands slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She tried to push herself up but winced, clutching her side. Dark fluid seeped through the plates of her armor. "Easy," he said. "You're wounded." For a moment they simply stared at each other, two enemies, or perhaps strangers, thrown together by chance. Finally, she whispered something in a language he didn't understand. Her voice like a trembling song carried on the wind. Elias couldn't respond in her tongue, but he could act. He knelt beside her, pulled the medgel from his survival kit, and carefully sprayed it across her wound. She flinched but did not resist. The gel hissed, forming a seal over the torn flesh. When he offered her water, she hesitated. Then cautiously she drank. The storm raged on above them, but in that small pocket of shelter, something fragile began, trust. Days of silence and struggle. Over the next 3 days, Elias helped the alien girl recover. She could barely walk at first, so he supported her, carrying her to a hidden cave where they found shelter. He scavenged scraps from his crashed pod, a thermal blanket, rations, and a dim emergency lamp. She spoke little, but her eyes followed his every move, watching, studying. Eventually she offered him her name. "Saris," she said, tapping her chest. He nodded. "Elias." She repeated it softly, as though memorizing the syllables. Though they had no common language, they began to communicate through gestures, sketches in the sand, and simple expressions. Elias learned that she had been separated from her people during a raid. Who had attacked them? Pirates, slavers, another tribe, he wasn't sure. But he knew she was alone, just as he was. One evening, as they shared the last of his ration pack, Saris pointed toward the horizon. She drew the shape of a crescent moon in the sand, then tapped her chest. Elias guessed it was the symbol of her people. Place maybe. Tribe. Home. He nodded and drew a small figure walking toward it. She smiled faintly, her golden eyes softening. For the first time since his crash, Elias felt something other than despair. Purpose. The unexpected visitors. On the 5th morning, Elias woke to a strange silence. The wind had calmed, the storm dispersed. He stepped outside the cave, scanning the endless dunes when he noticed them. Figures moving in the distance. Not one. Not two. Group. They moved with purpose, their silhouettes tall and lithe, carrying weapons that shimmered like glass. At first, Elias reached for his broken sidearm, heart pounding. But then he realized they were all women. Tribe. He glanced back into the cave where Saris still rested. The patterns on her skin brightened faintly, as though responding to the approaching figures. Her eyes widened with both relief and fear. The women reached the cave entrance within minutes, surrounding Elias before he could react. Their armor gleamed with the same crescent moon insignia Saris had drawn. Their leader, a tall woman with braids bound in silver rings, raised her spear and barked a command in their language. Saris cried out, dragging herself to her feet despite her weakness. She spoke rapidly, pointing to Elias, gesturing to her wound, then mimicking his actions of healing. The women's eyes narrowed, studying Elias with suspicion. He didn't understand their words, but he understood their stance, ready to strike. Finally, the leader lowered her weapon slightly and stepped toward Saris, cradling her face with one hand. They spoke in hurried tones, and Saris's glowing patterns dimmed with what looked like shame. Then she pointed again to Elias. The leader turned her gaze to him, sharp, assessing, like a hawk deciding whether prey was worth sparing. Elias raised his hands. I helped her. That's all. Though she didn't understand his words, something in his tone must have carried through. After a long silence, the leader gave a curt nod. The tribe of women had found him, and now his fate was in their hands. Among the Crescent Tribe, the tribe escorted Elias and Saris back across the plains. Their city was not of stone or metal but woven glass and living crystal, grown into spires that shimmered like frozen moonlight. Bioluminescent vines climbed every surface, casting the streets in hues of blue and green. Everywhere Elias looked, there were women, warriors, artisans, children with glowing markings who darted through the crystal arches. No men. Not one. Saris was greeted with cries of relief, embraced by her kin. Elias, however, was kept at spear's length, watched by guards who clearly debated whether he was guest or prisoner. That night, he was brought before the council, 6 elder women with markings brighter and more intricate than the others. The leader who had first confronted him stood at their side. They spoke at length with Saris, their voices sharp at times, gentle at others. Finally Saris turned to Elias. She placed her hand on his chest, then gestured to the council, speaking slowly so he might catch the meaning. From her tone and expression, Elias understood. She was defending him, arguing that without him she would have died. The council listened, their glowing eyes unreadable. After a long silence, the eldest among them rose. She stepped down from her seat, circled Elias, then touched the scarred gauntlet on his wrist. A word passed her lips. One Elias had never heard before, but it carried weight. Koran. The others murmured in agreement. Elias didn't know what it meant, but the way Saris smiled, relieved, grateful, told him it was good. The meaning of Koran. In the days that followed, Elias was permitted to remain among the Crescent Tribe. He learned more through observation than language, but slowly the pieces fit together. Koran was their word for savior. Not just one who saved a life, but one bound to the tribe through honor. It was both gratitude and responsibility. The women treated him with wary respect. Some offered him food. Others whispered as he passed. Children followed him, giggling at his strange clothing and lack of glowing skin. He became both curiosity and symbol,